I've gotten a few questions from East Washington School Corporation in Indiana about how to transform shapes in Pages on the iPad. Even though the mechanics are pretty similar in all the iWork applications, including Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, whether you're working on the iPad or on your Mac, the whole touchscreen thing can make it seem a little more complicated than it actually is. Here, I'm looking at a default template in Pages on the iPad. I'm going to modify this star with the 2010 inside it. I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see it a little better, and then I'll tap on the star to select it. You'll see a bounding box and all these little dots appear. The blue dots you'll see on any shape, and the green dots will change depending on which shape you've selected. The blue dots allow you to resize the shape, so touch and drag one of those blue points to see a little guide appear with your new dimensions for the star in width and height. Notice that 2010 disappears if I make the star too small. That's what that blue plus just below the star means. You can rotate the star by placing two fingers directly on the object and then rotating them. Just like with the size transformation, the rotation gives you a little tiny tooltip that tells you the degree of rotation. As with everything else, don't forget that you've got this undo button at the top of the screen. I use this thing all the time. Like I said before, these green dots are specific to the shape you're using, so in this case they control specific aspects about the star shape. This outer green point allows me to add and subtract points on the star. So if I want to make this a 4-point star instead, I can touch and drag that outer green point until I get 4 points. The inner green point lets me set the radius, so I can drag it towards the center of the star and make the body very small and the points cut deeply into the shape. Notice, just like my transformation, if my star is too small to hold that text, it disappears and I end up with that little blue plus again. Touching and dragging that inner green point outward has the opposite effect. On the Mac, when you want to nudge a shape, once it's selected you can just press the up, down, left, and right arrows on the keyboard. Here on the iPad it's a little more complicated. First, you need 2 hands free or a really flexible hand. Once you've got one of those two things, press and hold one finger on top of the object you want to nudge until you see the X and Y coordinates appear. Then, with another finger or your other hand, swipe in the direction you want to nudge the object. I'll swipe right to left to nudge the star to the left. You should see the X or Y coordinates change as the star gets nudged. I'll zoom back out to show another quick way to transform shapes. Notice that little star on the left side of the page. Let's say I want to make the big star exactly the same size as the little star. Pages calls this shape matching, and it's a little tricky. To do it, select the object you want to transform, so I'll tap and select my large star. Get your other hand ready because you'll need both. Now, touch and hold one of the blue dots around the shape, and with your other hand, or dexterous other finger on the same hand, touch and hold the other shape, in this case, the little tiny star. When you see the words match size appear, take your finger off the shape that you're transforming first. If you do all of this in the right order, the large star will be the same size as the small star. There are plenty of other things you can do in Pages, Numbers, and Keynote on the iPad, but hopefully that answers most of your questions about transforming shapes in there.